Good afternoon here on the PST side of the United States. I don't know where everybody else is, but we wanted to say welcome to In the Limelight with Clarissa Burt. We are back yet again with Amanda Rumschlag and Amanda Kippert, both from domesticshelters.org. We love to have them back. They are good friends of the show. Every 2 weeks, we bring some updates and some news, some resources, tips, and maybe even a couple of tricks to make sure that everybody's staying safe out there and knowing exactly what it is they need to do and not do, again, in order to stay safe. This week, ladies, we're going to be talking about something really cool, and I was so glad to see that we had chosen this time, and that is to sort of let our younger population know how to deal with potential and eventual abuse and abusive type situations. And I think we're really talking about maybe high school age, college age, some of the red flags that they need to be staying away from. And as we're starting, hopefully, to go back to school and get back onto campuses, I thought this was just the perfect time, as did you, to be making this kind of putting this message out. So let's start with you, Ashley.
Yeah.
And this is always a great question too. Like, at what age is the best age to start talking to kids about the big bad wolf out there? The eventual possibilities of, falling and getting into some difficulties.
Yeah, I'll start this one off, but I think Amanda's probably better suited to answer the specific one.
Okay.
But really, any age. It's one of my favorite articles by Amanda was talking about, is 3 too young to talk about boundaries, and she kind of opens up on that. No, it is not. She has 2 young girls, so I know that she likes to talk to them about those kinds of issues. So Amanda, if you don't mind jumping in on this one, I think.
Yeah, just jump right in, girls. We just have a nice little chat here, so
yeah, no problem.
No formalities. Just go ahead, Amanda.
I'd be happy to weigh in on this one. So we actually, I'm happy to talk about the teen and college years because that's important too. But we actually held a survey on domesticshelters.org where we asked people, what age did you start talking to your kids about boundaries and consent with? And over 60% of the respondents said that it was before the age of 4. So it's something that I think parents of even little kids should start thinking about, because it's a topic that you can lay the foundation for before they ever even think about dating.
Yeah.
I think the number one thing to teach your children is that they have autonomy over their body. So it is their body, and they need to give permission for anyone to touch their body. So that means that even when you are helping your 3-year-old get dressed in the morning, you might say, "Can I help you put your shirt on? Can I help you take your pants off? Can I help you go to the bathroom?" Those kinds of things. And some parents might be like, "I don't have time for that. We got to get going. I got to help them." But if you do that, then they will start to learn that they are allowed to grant permission to people to touch their body. And, this might not always apply to kids with like special needs who can't understand what you're asking. So in that case, what we would recommend is just explaining what you're doing. So, "I'm going to help you get dressed now," or
Right.
"I'm going to help you change your shirt," something like that, so that they don't feel ever out of control about someone entering their personal space.
Well, what, if anything, ladies, are they teaching in school? Let's leave the parents aside for a second. In the schools about, good touch, bad touch, no square, all of those other terminologies that we often hear when we're addressing the much younger population.
Yeah. So
yeah, Ashley, if you wanted.
Yeah, I kind of take this more into the direction of schools in general. A study found that only 35% of principals actually address these kind of issues, dating abuse, and kind of what a healthy relationship looks like. So there's definitely a real gap in the understanding about what dating abuse really looks like, let alone programs to actually help them. One organization that I would direct people to if they're interested in maybe starting a program at their local school, or just talking to the young people that they know, would be to look at an organization called loveisrespect.org. And that's a partnership between the National Domestic Violence Hotline and another organization called Break the Cycle. And they provide a variety of educational programs and just information on how to teach young people about dating abuse.
Right. So when we come to, let's call it respect, if you will, and wanting to keep our kids safe, is there a difference between the way we would address high schoolers as opposed to the way we would talk to kids in college?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely think there is, because high school, you're just starting out exploring dating and relationships and things like that. So again, it goes back to a lot of talk, I think, about boundaries and consent, and what dating should look like and feel like, you know? So for high schoolers, it would be a lot about, this is what a healthy relationship looks like and feels like. It's not about control. He doesn't get to look in your phone. He doesn't get your email password. He doesn't need to know your schedule. You know, that's control. And then as your kids get older and move into more adult-like relationships, I think it's more important to talk about red flags for violence. You know, when you start to, be intimate with someone, you're allowed, again, to say no, and no is a complete sentence.
Right.
If someone doesn't respect your no, that's a huge red flag, you know?
Yeah.
And then when you start to get into a relationship where you move in with one another, like, what does that look like? What are you committing to there? And are you sure you want to be locked into that? What does financial abuse look like? You know, we're speaking about like personal body autonomy. Do you have financial autonomy? Do you have control over your own finances? Because these are all assets of control in relationships that if you aren't aware of them, they can happen to you so suspiciously that before you know it, you're wrapped up in this relationship with an abuser and you don't know how to get out.
Please.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to tell a quick personal story. When I was 19, I'm an old married woman now with 2 kids, but when I was 19 and I got into my first kind of real adult relationship, there was there's control and there's a little bit of violence in that relationship. And I didn't know that that was abuse, because I thought, this is what an adult relationship is.
Yeah.
Like, this is how adults fight, right?
Yeah. Right.
Because no one ever told me. So to me, that's really important now as a mom of 2 daughters to explain to them when they get older, that's actually not normal. So that's a huge red flag.
Right. I think especially when we're talking to high school age kids, there are a couple of things that come to mind. And one of them is wanting to fit in, wanting to be cool. The other girls are doing it. You know, why shouldn't I? The whole sexting kind of thing, sending, let's call it inappropriate pictures to, through a phone and hoping that, it's not being shown all over campus. We hear about this time and time and time again. And I just don't know how to get the message out there to our young ladies that maybe they should refrain from doing that, because high school is it's kind of anybody's game, right?
Mm-hmm. That's personally terrifying. Again, as a mom of daughters, I don't even want to put a phone in their hands. I think internet safety is a huge one to also teach about. What you put out there lives forever. Do you want this to follow you when you're 25, 30, 35, 40? Do you want someone to Google your name and see this picture that exists of you? But that's really hard to imprint on teenagers. So you kind of have to, give and take a little bit. Like, they're going to do some maybe stupid things, but just making sure that they know, okay, if you're going to do that, just so you know, this is how it might play out.
And so we didn't have cell phones in my day, thank God. But anyway, okay. So the other thing that I want to say, so that we talked about high school age kids and what how to approach them. What about kids that are in college going, Mom, I get it, I'm grown up now, it's okay, nothing's going to happen to me. Campus rape is probably one of the largest, biggest problems that we've got at colleges and universities.
Yeah, I think it's important to make sure that you have an open communication line with your child, because one of the biggest things, if someone has experienced, rape, that they're afraid to come forward about it. And so at that point, then they can't seek the help that they need, or maybe they didn't even recognize the fact that they were raped. So it's important to have open communication with your child, so that way they feel comfortable disclosing some things that maybe they weren't comfortable with, or that they outright know were wrong. I think that's helpful.
Well, I've got a niece that's heading out to college, and she's beautiful, and but she's wafy. She's not, she could be easily, drug into a corner somewhere. It wouldn't be that hard. So, me being the overprotective aunt, wanted to make sure a couple of different times. First of all, she said, Aunt Chrissy, first, they have apps these days, and and those are really great apps that girls can have on their phone at the ready to have police there, and apparently where she's going, they also have campus security 24/7. It's always running around. That can be with, I don't know exactly what the mechanism is, but I think through an app, just one push and boom, they have through GPS, they know exactly where you are. Genius, just absolutely really great stuff. I, as a mother, as an aunt, I'm not a mother, but an aunt, I think a lot of moms would agree, just having that and knowing, that there's that quick, ready at the ready kind of technology out there today, as opposed to yesteryear, would be, lovely to know about. So how prevalent, because I've never really, I've heard of, date rape and that sort of thing, but date violence, is there a difference?
Right. Well, to answer your question about how prevalent it is, the stats are fairly alarming. 1 in 3 adolescents is a victim of emotional, physical, or sexual abuse from a dating partner. So 1 in 3, that's very, very high. And dating abuse affects around 1.5 million teens annually. So it's a large population of people that are being affected by this. And, to go back to earlier, the fact that people aren't really doing much about it in terms of education. I think that's, just kind of disheartening, and it's important that there's some sort of education out there.
Yeah. I was having that conversation with somebody today, Amanda, also about, when they don't teach us about relationships in school. Obviously, we've already touched upon that, but wouldn't it be nice if we could, really start teaching that in the schools as well, and anywhere else that, we've got 2 ears that will listen about what is proper and what is improper around, dating and just, it's not okay. It's really not okay.
Right.
The other thing is, you don't own someone, even if you are dating. There's a whole that jealousy thing, and I get it, but which is a huge trigger. Jealousy is a huge trigger, as we know. We've spoken about it many different times here, and just the idea that you don't own somebody. They are never your property. That's, they're not your slave. They are in a relationship with you, and they can choose to be or not to be. Anyway, we could be here all day with that. What are some of the red flags? Some of the red flags that we should warn your kids about when they're going back now to the school year, or that they are going out now with a new guy, new girl, new partner.
Right. Yeah. They don't necessarily have to be attending college or going to high school or anything. It's some things that Amanda touched on earlier, the idea that, you have a right to your personal property. They have no right to go through your messages. They don't need to know where you are 24/7. So things like that some younger people may consider to be part of being in a relationship or part of being in love. You have the right to have your own personal space. So things like that, if they're constantly checking in on you, asking for passwords to your social media accounts, quick to be jealous. So if you maybe have a study partner who might be someone of the opposite sex, and they, instantly jump to conclusions, just a lot of those things are red flags. It's not love. That's control. And that's when you need to kind of draw the line.
Absolutely. And, I think even especially right now, as we're talking a little bit more even about trafficking and sex trafficking, and getting into, being in the wrong place at the wrong time and not being vigilant. I think that, we have to be much more vigilant than we have been. And if that means, you've got to walk out, from school, and it's, it's going to start getting darker now, right? As we go into the fall and winter months, have somebody accompany you, make sure your phone is in your hand and at the ready. And I am also an advocate. I've always had, and I don't know, it's not maybe legal in some states, but there's mace in my purse. There's a different, I used to have even a little taser, it wouldn't really have ever hurt anybody, but it would have been enough that even the noise or just the idea that somebody could have been, these are things that are legal in some states that can really, it gives you also peace of mind, if you will, as a woman. And, you can have these things at the ready that, God forbid, you should need them. I don't know how you ladies feel about that, but it kind of made me feel good to know that I had something. I wasn't left to my own devices. And I'm pretty strong, but, we can always be overpowered. Yeah. Let me hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah. When I was in my 20s, I carried around pepper spray. I'm all for that. I'm all for non-lethal weapons like that. Yeah. And the only reason not the only reason, but I would not recommend carrying around a handgun, only because you are far more likely to have that handgun be used against you in any sort of abuse or assault situation. So non-lethal weapons, though, like pepper spray, are great. And we have a ton of app recommendations on domesticshelters.org that are certain things where you open the app, like you're walking from building to building at night, you open the app and you hold down a button on your phone. And when you get to your destination, you let go of the button and you say you're safe.
Right.
If at any other time you let go of the button, then it gives you a certain amount of time to say that everything's okay. Otherwise, it calls 911 for you. So that can be a great lifesaver if you have to be on your own. But otherwise, it's just the buddy system is the best prevention for that. And if I could recommend one book that I am going to force my children to read when they're old enough, it would be The Gift of Fear by Gavin de Becker. It is the best book I have ever found for listening to your gut instinct in situations where you have that little tingly sensation, like something seems off here. Maybe I shouldn't go this way. And a lot of people are like, no, I'm just being silly. I've watched too many scary movies. No, like that's the moment where you need to turn your butt around and go the other way. So I would highly recommend that to every teenager or college-bound student.
Yeah, and to never let your guard down in the sense that, the pepper spray or the mace isn't going to be doing you any good when you're fumbling at the bottom of your purse in the moment of need. You know what I mean? I'm not saying you're paranoid about it and walk, but it's the same thing as what you just said. You got to have the phone in your hand and you got to be pushing that button. Okay. Then, it's just being aware. Safety is being aware and being ready, kind of at all times. And it almost borders on, wow, you're a little paranoid. Like, what's the deal with you? It takes a split second. It takes that split second. It's when you've let your guard down. And it's the craziest that you let your guard down. That's exactly when it's going to happen. Yeah. Right. Exactly. So, okay. Any last parting words? Any other? I love the idea that you brought up that book. That's a great idea. Do you remember the name of the app, Amanda?
Ooh, Ashley, do you remember the name of that? There's so many.
I was trying to think of it.
They all have the word safe in them. There's like 6 different apps. It's like Safe Trek, I think, is one. But yeah, just go on domesticshelters.org and search our apps. But if I could add one more thing that I think is really important is that we've talked a lot about how to prepare girls for this, but I think there's a big piece of preparing young men, and when you have sons, to talk to them about what healthy relationships look like, because they're half of this equation. And in a lot of cases, not to discount same-sex relationships, but in most abuse cases, it's a man against a woman. So to have this talk with your son about what do boundaries look like? How do you respect them? How do you listen to them? How do you ask for consent? Do you always need consent? Yes, you do. Like having those kinds of talks with your son are going to go just as far in preventing domestic violence and dating abuse.
Yeah, and after they're 18, if something like that were to go down, where, in other words, he kept pushing ahead. Now he's a sex predator for the rest of his life. And so that never really works out well, does it? So, I mean, there are consequences in some cases, maybe not in all cases. It heartens me a little bit to know that. But I don't think there are enough conversations that are being had, especially with our young guys, about what is right and what isn't right. And so, yeah, beautiful point made there.
Very important.
Yeah, really, really important. And again, anyway, I might have digressed there. I was going to go down the sex trafficking because we're hearing a lot about that. But, again, women and young kids and girls are disappearing at alarming rates. I mean, scary numbers. So, really, really good point for parents that have younger kids. Don't let them out of your sight. Not for a second, not ever, not now, not ever, especially when you're out and about. And there was another really great thing that I saw, so taking us a little off the track. But I did see a post, I think it was on TikTok this week, where, a woman said, listen, here's my child. He's got the mask on and he's got a baseball cap on. If you're going to be taking that child out of a store, the surveillance isn't going to be able to tell you about who he is. And especially now the abductor is doing the same with the hat and the mask. You'll never be able to catch who it was, so just to be really super vigilant on that. And I know I've digressed and gone off into another sort of direction, but I think that now we have an audience and we'll be reposting this. Anybody's going to hear that, it's just going to be super vigilant, all over. I mean, our young kids and obviously, as we said, high school kids that are in college, be real, real careful. And any last parting words, ladies? I know that we like to profess, and I get a little on my high horse. I just don't want anybody getting hurt. That's all. I want everybody to be safe and happy. That's it.
Well, if I might just end on the note of, if anyone wants to learn more about, dating abuse, dating violence, and other questions, go to domesticshelters.org, use the search tool to kind of search around and search by categories, and there's lots of great articles there that they can use to learn more.
Yeah, and to remember that domesticshelters.org, more than 2,800 shelters all over the United States, some in Canada, and they can always use your help. So you can always go to domesticshelters.org. Ashley, you speak well to this when you say right then and there you can be helping out any shelter anywhere through Amazon. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, real quick. Yeah, so the wish list program is on there. So if anyone is, really feeling compelled to help domestic violence shelters who are struggling right now through all that COVID is thrown at them, you can go to domesticshelters.org/wish-lists. Oh, that's a mouthful. Go to that website or just go to the donate button on our site. And you can search for a domestic violence shelter with a wish list near you and actually purchase and send items to those shelters with a couple of clicks. So it's really easy to use and it makes a really big impact.
Amanda, any last words?
I would second everything that Ashley said. All the things that you need to know are under a dating violence tab. I can give you one more quick book recommendation, though, that I had written down that I didn't get to throw out there that I love. This is for younger adults, probably in your teenage years or tween years. It's called Girl Up, and it's by Laura Bates. And it's the book that I wish I had when I was an adolescent. And it's for girls and boys, despite the title, because I don't think that what's happening to girls should be some sort of mystery and enigma to men. So like they should learn this too. But it has a lot to do with dating, dating violence, consent, boundaries, things like that, as well as everything that you're going to go through body-wise in your adolescence. So definitely check that out because it's full of humor too. And that's why I love it so much, because it's not this like standard what's happening to my body book. It's so funny. And so definitely pick that up for your kid.
Right. And I'll end with this. A lot of, our children learn what they learn at home. And if you've got a good, happy, healthy relationship at home, it's probably, it probably is going to be that they're going to go out into the world and be pretty okay. So I'll end with this. And it was something that I always, I just love. It's not my quote, but it's one that I love. And that is, be the man that you would want your daughter to marry. And I think that's one of the most profound things that I had ever heard. Just be a really good guy. Just be good. Be a good guy. And everything will work out just fine. All right. So there you go. Aunt Clarissa just finished. Aunt Clarissa just said her last. Ladies, thanks again so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
You are always welcome. The more we get the word out, the safer everybody's going to be. Thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.